But in any case, I would like to open the floor for our panelists. I don't know whether maybe Professor Tashi Wallace has any questions for our Geshemas or Tsuma or Minghua, if you have any questions, as a Buddhist friend, a friend of the Buddhists, if you have any questions, please feel most welcome to ask.
I have kind of a stupid questions. I am not a Buddhist, but my family will publish Buddhist manuscript, including the Tibetan Buddhist text. In the films, I saw there's a very interesting action of debate like that way. And everybody gathering together and then talk about those terms or special words and reach the moment of enlightenment. Could you, any of you, teach us a little bit how does that work? How did you do that? Because it looks very fun. It's like a children's game, but it's a spiritual practice.
Yes. Speaking of debating, we have the two Geshemas here who are very familiar with this. They practice this all the time. So, do you have one of the Geshema who wanna answer that question and show us how to do that?
Okay, so this Tibetan tradition, we do this clapping hand. One is actually, there are two styles of debating. Debate means discussion, okay? So you can pick up any topic and then discuss. The one who is standing up and the one is sitting, so the one is standing up is asking the question and the one is sitting down is answering. So that's individually we do that debate. And then sometimes we do like in group debate, class group, the whole group. So when we do the group debate, so there are 2 or 3 who are sitting and answering, and then like a group of others will debating together. So the clapping hand, it's more like in Tibetan tradition, I think. And then in ancient India, they do like this, like a snapping and asking like, what is precious human being means, human life means? What does it mean? And if somebody asks that, the one who is standing up will ask, and then the one who is sitting down will answer. And this kind of a physical kind of a gesture. This tradition actually in Tibet, it started from the Sakya tradition. So one of the Sakya master actually created this style of debating. And he was actually a very special kind of master on one of the, like a Pramanavartika. So this is what in Tibetan tradition, okay? So you have a lot of movement of verbally, physically, and then also mentally. When we're really into the debate and fully, you could do a lot of concentration when you are talking. So this is a traditional way of debating. So you could have body, speech, and mind all in one, talking about what does, spiritual path mean for you. So it's a very, there are simple topics that you can pick up, and there are more complex topics that you can pick it up. So when we do the first topic that we study is like, we call it like the collective topics, which start from color and then shape and then form. And then within this form, we have like a 5 aggregate. And like these are, the collective topic that we study. So you could pick up any topics and you debate. So nowadays, I noticed that there are a lot of Westerners actually starting debating in English too. So I would actually recommend you could search out in Google. So like a debate in Tibetan Buddhist tradition or something like that. You could find a lot of explanation about what does debate really mean. Debate doesn't mean arguing or quarreling. It means like a discussing. So, answering, questioning, that's the way that you could solidify your understanding of impermanence, interdependence, compassion, altruistic mind. These are the topics that you could ask question and then answer. And if you couldn't find the answer, so you could refer to the text. what the master and the previous master have mentioned, what the Buddha said, what the Bodhisattva said, what the scholar have said, and then we have to use our own mind. But in order to be able to use your mind, you need to have some kind of reliable sources. That way you could get the information. So this is the debate means, and then that's answer your question, right? And I would like to say one thing. I know, Darcy, you were saying about the meaning of the term Tsunma, Geshema, and Gelongma, right? Tsunma, you have already, and what you explained is what does that mean? But the Geshema, you can have two different meanings in here, okay? Geshe, in original meaning of Geshe means Ge means virtuous, She means friend actually. It's know and spiritual. Okay, Geshe means spiritual friend or the spiritual master or the spiritual teacher. That's the original meaning. And then nowadays it's more used for degree. Of course you can have like the spiritual friend meanings are there. The one who have graduated as a Geshe or Geshema is supposed to be the spiritual teacher or the spiritual friend for anybody. But it's not necessarily spiritual friend. It's more like a degree kind of a title. And then Gelongma, that like a full ordination, full ordained monks and nuns, right? I think that's what my understanding.
Yeah. Thank you for the clarification. And speaking of terms, terms of address, I'm actually very happy that this movie has adopted Tsuma, rather than Anila. Well, because really Anila is not as respectful from my personal perspective. And I believe it was, His Holiness the 17th Karmapa who has advised them to use the term Tsuma. Because if you watch the film, Tsuma, you could see that there's a blessing from, His Holiness the 17th Karmapa. Although I think she, the female director, later we're gonna hear from her, she has pretty much visited the Gelugpa nunneries. Yet, because of her connection back here in Taiwan, she has gone to the 17th Karmapa to ask for advice and, blessings. And we know that the 17th Karmapa has also started to hopefully, reestablish or establish the Gelongma, lineage, which I'm sure that Darcy, Professor Darcy Wallace, has been, following this movement, right? So, so just now we learned about the difference between Geshema and Gelongma. So maybe Darcy can tell us a little bit about this whole movement of full ordination for Tibetan nuns.
Sure. So we've heard a lot of different terms here. And so Gelongma just means to be fully ordained. And as Geshema Lhadron had mentioned, in Tibet in the 8th century, Shantarakshita the Tibetan king at the time had adopted the Mula Sarvastivada Vinaya. And so this is the common Vinaya and the tradition in which is practiced. And this lineage was adopted in Tibet for Gelongs, but they did not have the requisite 12 ordained female monastics necessary to do the ordination for women. And so starting in, 2015, if I'm remembering correctly, His Holiness the 17th Karmapa wanted to move forward with thinking about what was possible for reinstating Gelongma ordination for women who practice in the Tibetan tradition. And so the question was how to do this. And so there have been several different, over the years, there have been many meetings held about what's possible. And ultimately what His Holiness the Karmapa had planned and has started in 2017 was to do a dual Vinaya ordination, so an ecumenical ordination, which means that in addition to using monks from the Mulasarvastivadya lineage, he invited nuns from Taiwan to begin the process of doing an ordination with nuns who had been ordained through the Dharmaguptaka Vinaya. And so during that ceremony, the initial ceremony was held in 2017, and those nuns who had made the choice to do this ordination, they received, we've already heard this other term, Jetsunma, or the novice vows. And to become a fully ordained nun, it is a process and a gradual process, just like everyone's already been talking about here. And so that process was started, and right now, down the road, I anticipate that the Gelokma, the next stage, would occur, and then a period of 2 years or 2 seasons must pass before the full ordination would happen. But this topic's been, a question and been discussed, and His Holiness the Dalai Lama has always said that if women would like to receive full ordination, there's other means to do so. And I think right now His Holiness the Karmapa is looking at ways to do that that would kind of bridge that possibility at the present time.
Yeah, and here the Taiwanese nuns, Taiwanese fully ordained nuns are playing a very important role.
Exactly.
Yes, and this nunnery in central Taiwan has been invited to go and to facilitate. Hopefully one day we, it's not that women have to, or the nuns have to get their full ordination. It's not about that, but at least there's this possibility or this option available to all, I think. Yeah. And do we have other questions from the audience? I could see that we have a few attendees, 12, right? In addition to our panelists. It's good that we have these attendees right here. If you have any questions, please feel most welcome.
While you're looking for questions, I would love to ask the Geshemas and Venerable Dasel a question. I'm wondering, just during this global health pandemic, how everyone is faring and what different practices have been adopted to keep all of you safe, and how you're, this is a great opportunity for practice in itself, but what does it look like for the continued studies, and what does it look like, I guess, for your COVID-19 world?
You need to unmute, Venerable. Venerable Dasel? Yes.
You want me to say? Okay, I'll share from Dongyu Gatsel Ling. Hi, Darcy, nice to see you. That we were in late February kind of aware of what was going on, that this COVID virus was, starting to be talked about. And Jetsunma's thought was, well, we're not shutting the nunnery because the nunneries and the monasteries are supposed to be places of refuge and solace for people who are upset. She really at first didn't want to shut the nunnery down. And then we had heard, that Tashi Gatsel, the monastery nearby, was shutting, and we heard that Doma Ling was shutting. So eventually we thought, well, we better get enough supplies in now for 3 months. By March, we started to think this could be serious. So we got a lot of supplies, and we have over 100 nuns. So we had tons of supplies for up to 3 months. And then in the middle of March, I think we shut the gates by March 18th and said, now we're really closed. And all our workers didn't come. So our front office workers didn't come in. All of our groundskeepers, our plumber, everyone didn't come in. And so basically the nuns took over the nunnery, running the nunnery, the whole thing. And it went amazingly well. It was quite incredible. We didn't stop any of the classes at the Shedro. We didn't stop any pujas. No one came by locally and said, look, you've got a social distance and people have to move into separate rooms and you can't meet in the temple. So we just said, well, if they know we're here, but no one's told us we can't do these things. I think all we did was stop debate because it was a little bit loud. So we just stopped that. But other than that, and we stopped the morning conch shell being blown, but we carried on just like regular for the next 2 months. And then at the end of May, we decided let's push our 2-month retreat up instead of July and August. Everyone in the nunnery went into silent retreat for June and July. And that was great because it was really peaceful still. India was in lockdown, so it was extra quiet. And I stayed in an extra month, so I stayed in for 3 months. And then the nuns had like August off, and then they started up their academic studies again in September. In the Shedra, they've been back into their regular classes, their debates. We've never stopped our pujas. So we do 4 regular big pujas every month. And so, and we really didn't suffer. The good things that came out of the nuns taking over the nunnery was they planted a whole bunch of new gardens. So we have all these new organic gardens going on. They took over things like clipping the hedges and taking care of the lawn, things that they never had to do before, but they had a lot of fun with it. They do all their own cooking anyway, so that part wasn't different. I think at the beginning, there was some fear that the nuns themselves were quite afraid because they didn't understand what is a virus and that it really can't come in if no one's coming and going, that it's not going to just spontaneously arrive, that we're going to have a COVID epidemic. And once they kind of understood that, they shifted their concern right away to the rest of the world. And then continually were, getting requests for prayers and light offerings. And so our focus has just been trying to keep our practices going and sending out all the merits and keeping our own joy going. And we just finished a big Gatsal magazine that's all about, COVID and community was the theme of it. Like, what did we do? Even the little nuns, trying to think about what could they do to offer more happiness. And when they wanted to have a photo taken, they wanted everyone to feel happy if they saw their face and their smile. They wanted to send out love. So that's how we've been carrying on. And it's been good because people have really contacted the nunnery more than usual, I think, to try to get some support. So thanks for your question, but we're all healthy here. We're fine. Jetsuma's fine. I think Jetsuma was supposed to be on a 3-month tour of North America. And her basic reaction was, well, I guess, it's just going to be a quiet year. We're just going to stay home. And I think for her, it's been nice because when the nunnery's open and people stay as guests here in the guest house, she usually doesn't walk around and move around the nunnery. But because this time it's only the nuns, every evening at 6, she does a big loop and a walk around the nunnery, and the nuns are so happy to see her. And she's so happy to see her nunnery in a different way, I think, in a way that wasn't her routine before. I think it's been nice for her. It's been ironic that we're kind of a cloistered nun community, but behind the gates, there's been more freedom in some ways found for her. So it's been nice as a witness to that.
Yes, speaking of freedom, it's a different type of freedom that we have found here. And yeah, we have a rather quiet audience tonight, but we have thankful ones, who has that message in the chat room. Very, much enjoyed our discussion here. And please remember that we have our venerables here praying for all of you out there. Yeah. You are dedicating all your prayers and merit to all our audience and everyone in the world. And back to what Venerable Tenzin Dasel was sharing at the Dongyu Gatsal Ling, that's where Jetsunma, by the way, again, is Jetsunma Tenzin Palmo, who's the the abbess of Dongyu Gatsel Ling, and also the current president of Sakyadhita International Association of Buddhist Women, who in early years spent 12 years in the Himalayan mountains. The Cave of Snow is the book that wrote her story, and there's also a documentary. If you just try to search on YouTube, Cave in the Snow, you can find her story there. I remember beginning of the pandemic in India, actually, I wrote to Jetsunma asking her, so how's everything? The another, you have in food? And then, Jetsunma told me, don't worry, have food, enough food ready to withstand seeds. So I was laughing at her reply. But anyway, it's so wonderful every time to be hearing from Jetsunma and all our spiritual sisters on the path. So I don't seem to find other questions. Oh, one question. Okay,
There's one
here.
question, yeah.
From
There are two questions here. One from Lee. Okay.
It looks like there's a question. I can read it out. I think, where did Christie go? Let's see, the question is, it's from Rita from Portugal, and she says, I practice Tibetan Buddhism and yoga for 5 years and have excellent teachers, but what advice do you have for me to study Buddhism? Geshema or Venerable Tsunma, would you guys like to offer any advice to Rita?
Maybe Geshema, Tenzin, Deden can take it because we haven't heard too much from her.
mm-hmm.
First, you want to practice the meditation. First, you must study. It's very important. First, you study the text, then you can think, then you can meditate. Otherwise, without the study, you can meditate. This is very difficult to understand how do you do meditation. Only you breathing meditation, you don't need to study. You can breathe yourself. If you study more, you want to there are two type of the meditation. If you really meditate in these two kind of meditation, you must study. Otherwise, without study, you do meditation, it doesn't have so much. How do you do meditation on it? You must first study is very important. It is my experience. First you study, then you can what you study for this you can put your practice and your daily life, and you can do meditation. Otherwise, it is my own experience. I think without study the Buddhism, then we can't do how to do meditation. What on topic that we do meditation. Even we meditation on the impermanent, you must to understand what is the impermanent, what is the meaning of the impermanent, then you can do the proper way to meditation. Otherwise, without the meaning, this is difficult to do meditation. I think this is the very important what we should first study. First is the important, then you think, then you meditation. This thing go by. First study, second think, then third meditation. Without study, it is my experience. Without study, then you meditation. It can't help too much for the how do we reduce our negative action and like fear, hatred, anger. This is the disturb us a lot. This is this three poison. How can we reduce the three poison, and how can we avoid the three poison? Then we can free from this samsara. And otherwise, I think this is difficult to without study. This is my own experience. I want to share with you this.
To say additionally?
Can I say just a few words additional? Yeah, okay, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Rita, she said, I'm Rita from Portugal. I have an excellent teacher, right? So if you have an excellent teacher, I think you know, better to ask your teacher. And what advice do you have for me to study in Buddhism? If you're, I mean, you have been studying for 5 years already, so you may have some idea what Buddhism means for you, right? So, you know, those, you know, I personally, if somebody asks me, it's kind of, you know, I just check whether that person have more, you know, kind of is very, you know, familiar with the Buddhist teaching or not, or whether if someone is a really beginner, you better just do, you know, remain as skeptical. You don't have to make kind of commitment that you are Buddhist. You know, identifying as a Buddhist is not important. So just remain as a skeptical and do more research before doing that. And when you're talking on Buddhist study, you know, like there are Buddhism in like a 3-part. His Holiness the Dalai Lama always put that: Buddhist philosophy, Buddhist science, and Buddhist religion, right? So the first two, Buddhist philosophy and Buddhist science, which means like working with the mind. These two are actually more like a universal kind of values. It's more like a universal education. So it's not really meant for someone who have, you know, sticks with Buddhist belief system. So for example, you know, practice compassion. And what is compassion? How do you really cultivate? How could you make like a strengthen the compassion and loving kindness? Of course, since we are human beings, so we know that compassion, tolerance are valuable thing, right? So it's, if you have a gentle, soft-minded, it really help you, and it's really help your surrounding, your family, your friends, your community. So when you see the values, or you see the benefit of practicing these things, so you just try to search, you know, ask people or your teacher or friend, or you Google these days, you know, the internet, the technology provide a great kind of a platform that you can learn, you know. So there are, you know, different ways that you could study. It's depend on this, it's depend on your, you know, individual circumstances as well. So, you know, you have to just find a ways and means how to do this, how to study. And meditation, you know, as I actually mentioned earlier, meditation, you know, silent meditation, or of course, are really needed. It's really beneficial. But if you meditate like analytical meditation, you have like a single point or concentration meditation, and then analytical meditation. When you do the analytical meditation, which is really helpful. So, when you do the analyzing, means like use your mind, what is good and what is bad, and what is right for you and what is not really right for you. And then if you are lost sometime, and then try to approach people who knows how to live, you know, happily, how to, you know, live life, you know, more kind of a better way. So there are different ways that you could approach. Yeah. Okay, so it looks like there are a lot of questions. I don't know who will take. Question.
I was just going to say,
consider joining the Sakyadhita conference.
there was this question
there
about,
to help you do. Darcy.
There was this question about this dark night of the soul, and I'm not sure about doubt, but I guess right now for me, His Holiness the Dalai Lama and other teachers like Mingyur Rinpoche, they've been offering a lot of teachings online, and I found that during this time of so much uncertainty, if you know, because it's here, at least in the US, we can't like go physically to our teachers or to the temples, or accessing these online opportunities to be with a Sangha have helped with any doubt or feelings of insecurity and uncertainty. So those opportunities are coming up often, and I'll share one here that's actually December 6th, and it's also led with a panel of Tsunmas who are talking about how to manage suffering, and I can post it here as well. So another Geshema will be on that panel as well, and some other teachers across the traditions. So Tsunma from Trungku Rinpoche's nunnery, and then I don't remember the other practitioners, but I'll share that in the chat so that others can see it.
I have probably be the last one, a very important question is, when we first time we met, we have some chat. During this, time of uncertainty, especially everybody, a lot of people globally in the world is locked down. I just want to ask one simple question, and maybe all of you can give me probably some simple answer. So my question is, what is a true freedom in a Tibetan Buddhist practice? And that's my question. Thank you.
What is true freedom? That's what you mean, right? Thank you for the question. It's really a big question. And I was actually thinking I'm going to mention a little bit earlier because, our Freedom Crossing Institute, right? And then our workshop title is also what? Liberation Story Crossing Himalaya. And then freedom, liberation. These are, it can have different meaning with the context, okay? What is true freedom? That's what you mean, right? What is true freedom means there are different levels and different ways that you could explain. And in the sense of or like a mundane level, freedom is freedom of speech, freedom of living, freedom of religion, freedom of keeping your culture and religion. So these are there too. And then there is another way that you're talking about a freedom of fear, freedom of anger, freedom of oppression. Oppression, there are external oppression and there are also inner oppression, which are like a doubt or anger or hatred. These are also oppress ourselves. So that doesn't really give us full freedom. So in the sense of, according to Buddhism, freedom means free from all the negativities, all the mental defilements. And then, if you're free from that, how do you really do that? Realizing emptiness, realizing like a true nature of reality, realizing the true nature, like the true meaning of interdependencies. And, by applying the antidote, you could, rid of the ignorance and attachment and hatred. So then at the end, we will get the full freedom. So that's liberation. So then within the liberation, within the freedom of that, there are different levels out there too. So, you can talk like ages or maybe many lifetimes about what does it mean for full freedom. So, you need to learn a lot, you need to study a lot about this. And, we have to just start somewhere and according to your own level and according to your own interest. So if you want to make a kind of commitment, I want it to be like free from fear, or I want it to be free from attachment, or I wanted to free from aversion. So to see the disadvantage of being angry and then the advantage of practice patient. So if you do this, make scaling, this too. And if you see the values of being practice patient and then disadvantage of being anger, so then try to minimize it. So that's how we really start. I think that's kind of an answer that I would give. And I think Venerable Dasel and Geshema Tenzin didn't have some addition.
There, I have no much left to explain is about the true freedom. Lhadron already mentioned about all of this thing. Then also this, I have no much more to explain it on. There is also true freedom in Buddhist point of the view then we have nobody free from nobody can free for us, and we can free for ourselves through by education. Then it is temporary freedom. We are freedom country. We have freedom to speak. Freedom. We have right to speak. We have right to do what we want to do. Inner freedom means if we need the inner freedom, we must have to know through the education. Then we can get inner peace with the through the education. When we we get the inner freedom, that means we can control our mind, and we can control what is negative karma and affliction and hatred, anger can disturb our inner peace. And we can reduce this thing, then we get the inner freedom, I think. I have not much to say.
Well, I disagree. I think what you said was really brilliant, both of you Geshemas. I mean, the whole quest of the Buddhist path is looking for freedom. That's what the word liberation means. And, you know, often, and to kind of revisit Darcy's question about the dark night of the soul or the dark night, you know, impermanence is always there, but when our life is very busy and things are moving along and flowing in and out, and nothing's really unusual to disrupt us and cause us to really deeply pay attention, every impermanence is still there. I mean, my teacher taught for years and years, life is uncertainty, death is certainty. We do not know how long we have to live a life. We do know that death is coming. We don't know when and we don't know how, but we do know our life is very finite. And that's why you need to use this precious life to find freedom quickly. That doesn't mean to rush, but it means to pay attention, to really take your mindfulness to, you know, that all the uncertainty was there before COVID-19 came. All the uncertainty was there before these nationalistic politics started coming. Life was still very unpredictable for each and every one of us. None of us knows how long we have. And so the Buddha was a little bit like a doctor saying, like, look here, I'm making a diagnosis. You're suffering because you don't know the true nature of reality, and you're suffering because you have these three poisons. You're trapped under ignorance. You're misperceiving the real nature of the reality. You've got a lot of desires based on these misidentities of what you think is reality. And you've got a lot of aversion and hatreds that come up because you have these desires, these three poisons. So he said, first, you know, like a good doctor, he made the diagnosis. He laid out his prescription, which is the Dharma. He said, this is what you need to do. He gave like the four noble truths, the eightfold path. He gave philosophical teachings in the sutras, especially Prajnaparamita, for minds that could follow the philosophical. This is to your point about why do we use debate? It's to try to go back and forth to really ascertain what is the true nature of reality, argue it out so that you come conclusively to be able to see how things exist, to be able to break down your mistaken, ignorant ways of thinking they are. And then he established the Sangha to be a bit like the nurses, to be like the support team, the medics, to come in and say, like, look, keep going, you know, we believe you can do it. We're working on it too. We're all working on it. Just don't give up. But the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, as His Holiness has said in almost every teaching, can only point the way, but you yourself must go. So the Buddha gave the prescription. The Sangha is here to support, but you have to decide to take the medicine. No one can take it for you. Like the Venerable Great Geshema said, you know, first you study, then you contemplate, then you meditate. And the more you repeat, study, contemplate, meditate, that's like taking the medicine. The more you take the medicine, the more your antidotes to taking those poisons out of your mind stream is going to take effect. Then you're going to start to feel, wow, I do feel freer. I do feel more wise. So wisdom's an antidote to ignorance. I do feel less selfish desire. So open-hearted loving kindness, open-hearted compassion is an antidote to selfishness. I do feel hatred and anger is going down. Having more patience, having more wisdom is an antidote to that. And you start to see along the path that it's totally set up to help you free yourself. And then once you free yourself internally, no one can set you free from the outside, but you can use tools that others, the Buddha is an authentic guide. He walked and found an authentic path. How do we know? Well, because many beings have walked it and found liberation all the way up to enlightenment by following it. And so he said, don't believe anything anyone has said, even if I myself have said it, unless it makes sense to you. So he's putting the responsibility directly back, and he's giving us his confidence, saying, look, I know I'm not the only one that had Buddha nature. I found that everything that lives has Buddha nature, has a clear, pure, pristine, radiant mind. And if you just start to follow and investigate what I'm saying, and you can find it and identify it for yourself, your very mind is going to be the thing that's going to help set you free. But once you set yourself free, it doesn't end there. The point is to set we free, because there is no individual I in just me. They're so deeply interdependent that it's, if you would in quicksand drowning and you were able to get yourself up onto dry land, you wouldn't just walk away and say to everyone else trapped in the quicksand, oh, I got out. Yeah, good luck. Good luck with that. Hope you make it. You know, you'd find the stick and you'd start helping others to come out by sharing with them the Dharma, if they're open to that, if they want that. If, like the people who are here on this chat tonight are asking questions, you try to give them the confidence that they have the wisdom themselves. You do. Everyone who's listening, who's alive, even to the smallest insect, the Buddha said, everything that has sentience has Buddha nature. And so the good news for us is we actually have, hopefully, I'm not always convinced that humanity shows the best examples, but because the Buddha said so, I accept it. We have the best possibility to connect with and identify with and actualize that nature. Although sometimes if you look at the hive of bees or the colony of ants, they work much more nicely, interdependently, peacefully, selflessly, often than does humanity. But I still have hope that humanity is going to open up its big minds and hearts to reach and access their highest potential, which is freedom from suffering, which is liberation, and which is enlightenment, which commits itself to helping all beings, not just Buddhists, not just humans, all of life, find happiness, find freedom with infinite compassion, infinite joy, infinite equanimity, until everyone's lifted out of the realm of suffering of samsara. And we can all do that. We know that already. We've already healed ourselves through many challenges. Even as little children, we've learned a lot on many levels. And so the sacred spiritual quest to be truly free is the quest for the mature mind and heart that's ready to take that on. And I would wish that for all beings, that they would reach a point and station in life where they say, actually, that really is the main purpose that I'm here to accomplish. So may we all be free.
Beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Yes. All right. So we have shared a few links in the chat room. So please, feel free to access those for additional information. And I think we are, coming close to the end of our program. So I would like to go back to Minghua, my co-host and founder of the
Freedom Crossing Film Festival and the Freedom Crossing Institute. So here, really thank you for all your speeches. And I want to share the directors of the Tsunma's her endorsement, the videos to all the audience and the Tsunmas and the Geshemas here.
各位观众，大家好，我是《珠马》的导演林丽芳。《珠马》这部纪录片呢，最主要是平时的记录藏传佛教的女性修行者在喜马拉雅山的生活与学习，讲述着他们在严苛的环境里面如何追求信仰的自由与梦想， 还有如何将坏日子过成好日子，欢迎大家来观赏。还有祝自由影展成功顺利。
Thank you. I really appreciate the director Ling Li Fang. She's very devoted to do the filmmaking to tell the stories. So if you watch the films, we are still screening on. And also in India, there's another films in our film festival is open to the public as well in both North America and India. That's called the Dialogue with Faith. I think both of the films screened today can offer a very, very good storyline for people to develop a deeper idea for religious dialogue and interfaith dialogue as well. I'm very honored to be able to be part of the panel. And I find out there's one question was left. And it's from Teresa Yong. And maybe you guys can answer very quickly. That question is, since young nuns receive Buddha's traditional education, once they come to the secular world, how can their monastic education face a change from the modern education? So any of you want to answer that really quickly? Since it's a very rare opportunity, everybody's here and they bring out their questions. So that's the last, that is the last question.
Okay. What is traditional education once they come to secular world? Okay. I think, you know what, it says like the monastic education is not just a religious education. It's more like, I think out of our full education, more than 98% is secular education. So there are, you know, of course, like religious studies, but, you know, these secular educations are there too. I mean, you know, what does it mean for secular? So there are different ways of looking at secular education or the religious education. So the Buddhist teachings are more like, as you know, it's like universal kind of educations are there. So it's more like a secular there too. And then, you know, the one who is asking question, you know, whether it's a, you know, it's depend on the individual person, whether she or he would like to study more like a, you know, stick with a belief system, or you wanted to have something that, you know, education that help your heart to expand. And then there are a lot of good program, like Emory University have a great program educating, you know, young people like school children or college or university student as is based on secular ethic. And His Holiness the Dalai Lama have initiated that for a long time ago. And there are a lot of material available on the internet. And I don't have the link right now here, but if you Google Emory University or secular ethic, they call it like a C learning, social, emotional, and educational learning. C learning, social, emotional, and ethical learning. So these are really, you know, available for free online. So if you Google that, it's C learning, social, emotional, and ethical learning. So you can find a lot of information from that. So that's my kind of question, you know, answer for you. Thank you.
I mean, I will just share from here because we have about 100 nuns in the nunnery, and 9 of them are in long-term retreat, 7 of them in lifelong retreat, but the rest of them are studying at various levels, and they're all learning. The young ones from ages 7 until about 16 are learning Tibetan, grammar, English, science, and some history. And then they're also starting to learn some basic Buddhism prayers and some meditation. And then the junior nuns from about 17 till about 22 have started, after coming through that program, have started more with the traditional studies of logic, of philosophy, of debate. And so they've already had a built on kind of more secular education, but right along they've integrated already this kind of a philosophical and spiritual side of Buddhism, and they've learned all their pujas, and they're learning the instruments. So they're playing the instruments during the pujas, and they're at a certain age going to learn the big damaru, because this particular practice here at Dongyu Gatsel Ling practices the churd, which is with the drum that's quite big. And so there's a really set kind of integration of both the secular and the sacred traditions that go on hand in hand. No one here is really allowed to have a cell phone. I think once they're 21, they can have a cell phone, but they can only use it one day a week. And we do have computers in the library so that they can learn how to use the computer, but they don't have the internet on them. So we're pretty, cautious about the exposure. And the nuns before COVID, they could leave once a month on second Saturday, but I've talked to a lot of the nuns and I said, well, how often do you leave the nunnery? And one said to me, I haven't left in 2 years. She's about 26, but most of them really won't go more than a few times a year out of the nunnery unless they're going on pilgrimage. So their minds are very, very disciplined, and once they're in this groove of really aiming for enlightenment, the mind becomes much, much less interested in what's going on outside of the walls. So that kind of distraction doesn't really play in too much. Of course, sometimes some karma ripens and some nuns might leave, but no one's left here for quite a while. I think the core group that's here now is pretty committed, and actually more from the senior nuns are wanting to go into a lifelong or long-term retreat. But yeah, the program here has been very careful to kind of be limiting to the exposure that they really do have to the kind of secular distractions. But with education, actually, we just started an astronomy, little astronomy class with a telescope on top of the temple, because the Abhidharma's description of the universe is quite different than modern Western science's description of the universe. And they're quite interested. So I asked Jetsunma, shall I order a telescope? I don't know a lot, but we're having a little astronomy now on top of the temple, which is nice. They're very into it. So, we're trying to find the right balance. It's not that you want them not to know what they need to know to be in the 21st century in terms of this calendar, but what they're aiming for is timeless and really beyond that. So you want them to go for what they're really here to do as a monastic, which is to aim for their enlightenment.
Yes, balance, very important.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So it's nice to have Minghua here as a co-host. My internet tonight has not been very stable somehow, but in any case, have we answered all the questions so far? And again, in the chat box, there are, quite a few links, good resources to everyone. So please make good use of them. If we don't have any further questions, Minghua, you have some conclusion and also even like a video clip to share with us before we close the program, right?
Yes, I really appreciate everybody and all the attendees and panelists to join us for the first workshop for Freedom Crossing Institute and the Film Festival. In the end, I want to really appreciate our sponsor, Cultural Ministry of Taiwan, the New York Center. And also these films we are allowed to screen both in the North American and India are collaborated and supported by our Taiwan Film Institute. So at the last moment in the ending, I want to screen the trailer for the documentary and then say good day or good night to everybody. And then please enjoy the film with us during the film festival. Sorry for the sounds issue. We cannot totally fix that, but you can definitely watch this documentary on our platform. Thank you.
Ming Shuo, I just want to share with you today, I was able to use that link that you sent, and I screened the film already for the young nuns who are 12 to 20. And they came this afternoon. They really enjoyed it, and I asked them so I could share with you their feedback. They said they really enjoyed it, that it was really empowering. They said they felt so strong to see stories about Tsunmas. And then we discussed, because a lot of them are from Ladakh and from the Himalaya regions where this term Anila would have been traditional. And they really understood the reason to go to the word Tsunma. And so they wanted to say thank you to the filmmakers and thank you to you for putting the festival together. They really enjoyed it. They thought it was great to tell their stories. I asked them, when you see these nuns, I happen to know those nuns. I stayed with them in, and so I said, do you feel like they're your sisters, even though you haven't met, and their gay look and your kaiju? They said, oh yes, we're all nuns, we're all sisters. So that was very beautiful. And then they said that they just thought it was so great to have their stories shared. So that I just wanted to share that with everybody. I wanted to share my appreciation for the filmmaker. I do some photography and some film, and I really want to let her know that it's a beautiful aesthetic. It's a beautiful weave, the way she's kind of going back and forth and showing intimate moments and showing joy, showing the hardship, but also showing kind of the perseverance. So I want to say thank you for capturing that aspect of the life, as well as using Tsunma in the title. I think that's really going to help people understand through education why we are using that term instead of Anila, why we're asking people to shift. So thank you very much to everyone involved with this Freedom Crossing Institute Film Festival and all the films that are being presented.
The director just texted me her response, but she cannot be here. She said really appreciate all the Tsunmas and the Geshema's stories. And she says the story actually inspired a lot of young women in Taiwan as well. After they saw the films, they started to have a courage to go after their dreams. So that's the director want to send her appreciation and then appreciate the influence of this beautiful religious practice and all the Tsunmas stories. And thank you for sharing this story to all our global audience. And thank you for Professor Zhang to help to organize and host this beautiful workshop and event. And Freedom Crossing Film Festival will have another workshop. We will have a dialogue with the Professor Lance Whitler, who is 90 years old and is also a global leader for religious dialogue with our two documentary directors tomorrow. And hopefully if you guys are available, you can join us. Good morning and good night.
Okay, have a nice day.
Have a nice day. Have a nice night.
Thank you so much. Really good to see you all. Thank you. So we'll see you sometime in the future soon. Yeah. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Be well.
Bye.
Bye.
Stay well. Stay safe. The COVID is still there. All right. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Oh, let me not forget to thank the man behind the scene and the woman behind the scene. Lee, I forgot Lee. And also, she checked out already, Anisha.
Okay. Yeah, she's gone.
Thank you all, the audience.
Bye.
Yeah, thank
Bye.
you. Bye.